Hey friends, it's Zhen here.
And Phil here.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for signing up to our tea trip. We are super excited to travel in the tea region with you. In this video, I'd like to share with you some basics about traveling in China, or say some basics about taking on a tea trip. You're welcome to watch this video, of course, but I also think it would be a good, like a podcast, like something you can just put it on, listen to it while you're, doing dishes, running, or driving. That being said, the information here are something that is good to know, but not that fundamental that you need to take notes or anything. And if there's any information or sources that we think could be valuable to you, we will put in the link down below or description. You can check the information below. And I will also put the chapters about each section in the video, so you can jump straight to the parts that you're most curious about, or the parts that you left over from the previous watch.
This is going to be awesome. We're going to have so much fun. But it's probably just as important to tell you what this video is not about, and that is travel in general. We're going to be foreigners in a foreign country, but we're not going to talk about things like personal security or where to keep your money or those sort of generic things that you probably all already know and for sure can certainly easily look up. We're going to dive into some specifics that are going to be helpful for a tea trip and travel in China.
To start with, I'd like to give you a simple introduction of China. It might sound silly, but I think it's good to know.
Yeah, no, it is.
China is an East Asian country with a population of 1.4 billion by 2023. The landscape, population, and the development is not balanced. The east side is more populated and more developed, and this is where the China's tea region is. Though we call this area the tea region, it doesn't mean that there's absolutely no tea made outside of this zone. They just don't make a major difference in terms of industry level.
Right.
In China, we speak Chinese and we write in Chinese. Chinese as a spoken form, speaking form, spoken form, yeah, consists of the official language, Mandarin, and many dialects, depends on different regions. And the written Chinese consists of traditional Chinese and simplified Chinese. Traditional Chinese is mostly used in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau. Macau.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and the simplified Chinese is mostly used in mainland. Pinyin is a tool for people to learn how to pronounce Mandarin. Speaking of dialect, people sometimes get confused between dialect or accent. Sometimes the dialect, specifically Chinese dialect, can sound pretty similar to Mandarin, but different. But in some cases, they could be totally different.
Like you and your mom, for example.
Yes, we speak Nantonese. Even if you can speak perfect Mandarin, you would have no idea what we are talking. Same with a lot of tea areas in the south. They have their own dialect, and so just don't be shocked if you, when you're there, you notice that we're all Chinese and we sometimes don't understand each other so perfectly. These might sound really basic, but I always like to start from basic. And because I like to start from basic, I was gonna suggest you to check your government's website in terms of their suggestion of what you should do when you go to China, what you should, learn or be cautious and stuff. I'm glad, because that was my intention when I was planning this video. I'm glad that I check on our Canadian government side first before I put that as a suggestion, because
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't blindly send them there.
Yeah. Honestly, when I saw that the Canadian side, I almost passed out. It's
Somewhat shocking.
it's how should I say? Sorry to be blunt, but it's just simply absurd. Okay, they mentioned pirate. I don't know, at some point.
Like, hang on, I think they might be thinking about like pirating of goods. No, we mean pirates on the water, like yar. They mentioned.
It's so funny. At some point, I don't even feel offended, but as somebody who I grew up on the coastside and visit like the coastside extensively. I've never heard of pirates in my life. So anyway, and a lot of information on that website is like very,
Alarming, and that's why we wanted to talk to you and give you our perspective, because the last thing we want is for you to be alarmed. I think there's no need for it.
Yes, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, and exactly why I wanted to say that, because here, from a lot of media, you might have a lot of information about China that, in my opinion, is just wrong or false information. You might not know. So doing this, I don't want to say that this is how you should view China, or this is wrong and you gotta follow my way. But you're gonna be in China in a few months and you can see it yourself, right? But to explain a little bit of this, I just want you to feel safe, or at least don't have to worry unnecessarily about your safety. I really don't know where that pirate thing comes from. Just to share a little bit about my personal experience. Like, before I got to Canada, I've never had a concept of a neighborhood. There's a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood. It's all very safe. And I used to, back in the clubbing days, like when you were young and little, you go out at night, it's very, very safe. As a girl on my own, never felt anything. And it just, in my opinion, is way safer than, at least here. A
lot of places we'd encounter just touring around the US or Canada,
Yeah, the feeling, when you're in some environment, a certain times you're like, I'm not very comfy to be here, I want to go to the next block or something like that. I never had those when I was in China. And also, recent years in North America, we have lots of robbery things, rob the jewelry stores. So now even in Ottawa, we have Bayshore got robbed, and they have those the bars set up and security is daytime, right? And you have to ring the bell to get in the jewelry stores and stuff.
Even the phone store, remember that?
Oh yeah. Anyway, just a ridiculous amount of security, and I have to say, even just one rob of that scale, like during daytime robbery happening in China, that would be probably a nationwide major news, and you're gonna hear follow-ups about who are the suspects who get arrested. It's really snappy, and it's just, I can't believe they think about safety in China compared to here.
But in Canada, we don't have pirates. We got rid of all the pirates.
We're gonna joke about that for a long time, I think. But anyways, overall, it's a very safe, and the area we're going is more developed area in China. So I don't know what your government's official side will say, but at least the current version of the Canadian side is just absurd.
Yarr.
Now let's dive into more of the tea trip related information. First of all, let's talk about the weather, and it's related to how you're gonna pack your clothes. For the springtime is actually spring or autumn. Despite the time, I think the tea region you need to know is warm. maybe I shouldn't say that. It's warm compared to us in Canada.
Right,
it's a
that's a
very
good point.
temperate temperature. And the key thing I wanted to talk about is actually humidity. If you're from humid climate, you might be more familiar with that. But if you are from a more drier climate, you might not fully understand, what humid weather is like. Like in Canada, like in Ottawa, if it rains in the summer, right, the humidity level, they were gonna tell you it's 100%, but you wouldn't really feel very humid. At least for me, somebody from that humid climate, I don't feel humid at all. And I personally developed 2 index to help you.
Useful index that you can use at home to figure out how humid you're used to and what is your climate like.
Yes, because the number really doesn't tell you much about how you feel, So first test is when there is a light rain, would you go out without umbrella? If you go out without umbrella, that means probably you're in a drier climate. When I first got here, I didn't understand why nobody here uses umbrella. And if you see somebody use umbrella, high chances it's Asian. Because later on, I realized it's actually when last time we were in the tea region, I realized it's because when we're in this kind of a humid climate areas, once you get wet, you probably the whole day you stay wet. Well, here in Canada, we get wet, we get inside or somewhere, we can dry in a few moments.
Pretty quickly.
Right.
And in China, you might be wet for the whole day. You might be wet for a couple days. It's really wet. I didn't have an idea how wet it was.
Yeah. And another one is to do a bread and chip test. If you leave the bread out or a chip out for like a couple of hours, like 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and you see the change. If your chip become floppy, that's us, the humid climate. And if your bread become crunchy, crispy, that's the dry climate. I think that's very intuitive to tell. And
we call it the chip and bread test.
And I'll try to see if I can search some terrifying southern humid weather for you. What does that mean? What does that mean when I pack is, I sometimes forget how humid we were. Last time I went home and I brought a cotton t-shirt and the cotton t-shirt just feels wet. Even though it's as dry as it could be, it just stays wet in the suitcase. And it wasn't even rainy day. It just humid day. So I still feel
really
like
shocked me.
Yeah, me too. I totally forgot how humid that could be. But that's why I always suggest a fast dry t-shirt. Your fitting is better. Cotton on the skin is just wet.
Damp cotton is pretty awful.
I didn't like that.
I think another important thing about the humidity and the time we're there is also the temperature and how the humidity plays with the temperature when it swings, because we're going to swing over the warm and the cool, and it's humid. So that's an important thing that as a Canadian, I got shocked by.
It's hard to read, just say, 10 degrees is actually pretty warm here.
Yes.
But
a wet 10 degrees is pretty darn chilly. It goes right to your bones. So you kind of need to bring some warmish clothes.
I suggest a thin insulated jacket just in case. And tea farms are usually nestled in the mountains or on the mountain, which means it's usually cooler, and even cooler during morning and evenings.
So one of the things that's going to be absolutely fantastic, no matter where we are in China, whether we're in the cities or on the tea farms, is the food. So I want to share with you some of my experiences about the food so that you can kind of prepare. I'll start with the cities. I mean, hopefully we'll get a chance to eat some of the cultural dishes from each of the cities that we visit. But one of the things I was a little bit too proud to do on my first few trips to China was to actually just hunker down and eat some Western food. And Jen's mom was really kind and sensitive. She's very observant, and she said, I think we need to get him a burger. In Chinese, I didn't know what's going on. I think we need to get him a steak. And I'm like, and Jen would offer, and I would say, no, I'm good. I'm really excited about the food, the dandan mian, the various, all kinds of delicious food. And that's okay. But looking back, and this time and in the future trips, I'm probably gonna lean into a little Western food a little harder when I get into a city. Not the whole time, but just every now and then. And why? Because on the tea farms, the food is absolutely amazing, but it's really foreign. It's fresh, like beyond fresh, delicious, made to order. Like, we're gonna eat nice food, really nice food. But it's at a certain point when you look
there could be a limit though, because at the tea farm, we would try to do our best to get all the food, but sometimes when they're short of people.
Sure.
Right?
It depends.
Cook might be borrowed to be.
Sure, I guess. I was just lucky so far, and maybe I don't know, but it all was so good. So we'll do our best.
Lots of the local fresh food, that's guaranteed.
Yeah,
it's just what they eat.
I mean, even in the farm, we're sometimes walking around with Jen Li, and she point out, oh, there's what we had for supper yesterday. That's the leaf, they pluck that, and they freshly made that. That's how like super fresh the food is. It's really good. But at a certain point, you see foreign dish after foreign dish after foreign dish. There's just something that might. Here's my takeaway, and I've always been too proud to do this, so I'm going to do this on this trip. I think I'll get more enjoyment out of the food if I just take a little reprieve every now and then and just kind of rebase myself. I am who I am. I come from where I come from. No shame in it. So that's a little tip. Take it or leave it. How I think a good outlook is on the food. Sure, lean into all the amazing Asian dishes, but every now and then give yourself a little reboot. That's what I'm going to try.
Actually, I'm going to add 2 points. So point 1 is, what exactly does this mean is we have trips, right? In the tea farm, we're strapped in terms of a possibility for Western food.
Yes.
I can get you steak or burgers, but in the city, I think I'm going to ask you very straight, hey, would you like me to find some Western food, and just don't be shy if you feel like that. And the second thing is, I want to add for that, because when my mom asks you about, my mom actually was telling me that we need to get him some beef. When you first start to get a little sick, my mom is like, oh, maybe some steak and a burger will fix him. It was joking, but it was more intuitive.
Only half joking.
Yes, the older Chinese way sometimes is give them some home food. Those will homesick is, kind of a homesick. But modern science-wise is your gut bacteria. So there's a tradition behind it. There's also modern science behind it. And there's nothing wrong, or don't be shy about it. If you really miss steak and a burger or fries, is totally normal, and we're just gonna communicate during we're in the city and arrange those. Right. Just don't be shy.
Good point though. Not a possibility on the tea farm.
yeah. During the trip, if you need to buy something or souvenir shopping, there's a few ways you can pay in China. First, cash is always welcome. But just bring like a small amount of cash. You don't need to bring a lot with you in your wallet. It's not a primary way of paying in China. And in a lot of like a big place, like a hotel, big restaurants, or big shop called stores. Big stores. They accept foreign credit cards without issue, so you don't have to get overly nervous. What could be tricky with foreign credit card is those small vendors or street food or that kind of thing. We highly suggest you set up Alipay or WeChat Pay at home before you head over to China. And you can link your credit card, your foreign credit card, to the account. There will be a small transaction fee associated with each transaction, but actually Alipay and WeChat Pay, this tap way of paying, is the primary way that people pay in the day-to-day life. That would be probably you will use the most.
This is an overview of sort of the tech. I'm not going to do a deep dive, and when I wrap up at the end, you'll see why. But the first thing I'll talk about is the phone. There's kind of three major ways that I see for you to approach your mobile phone in China. The first, and probably the easiest, is to just bring your phone. Check with your home provider, see if they have some kind of a roaming plan, and bring it along and roam with your phone in China. Simple. Also possibly quite pricey, at least for me. When I checked into it, really pricey, but simple as heck. And it's an option, so I want to throw it out there. The cool thing about this option is that often when you bring your own phone, often not always, you'll kind of skip the Great Firewall of China. So you'll still be able to access YouTube, Insta, Facebook, etc. without any fuss. Usually, that's what I've heard. Another option that's fairly popular is to just pick up a SIM card at the airport when you land in China. There seems to be little booths, kiosks, even vending machines that sell these all over the place. The price seems to range from about 100 to 500 RMB from the research I did. That's what I saw. And the plans kind of vary, and you can kind of get something customized to your need. If you need more data or less data, of course, the price will move with that. And the final way that seems a little bit new, and I have never tried, but I'm quite interested in, is this thing called an eSIM. So if you're familiar with cell phones, a SIM card's that little card that you put in that makes your phone, that allows your phone to attach to your carrier's network. Well, an eSIM is an electronic version of it. And these seem to be becoming popular because it's so easy for people to digitally change their SIM as they're traveling. Pretty cool, pretty convenient. The prices for these range from sort of $3 to $6, $7 per day, again, depending on the kind of plan you get. They seem to offer data-only plans as well as more full-service voice, text, and data plans. And that's all going to boil into the price. And there are tons of options out there for this particular eSIM option. I'll put links about all of this down in the description below because it's, frankly, a little bit of a maze, right? And I'll come back to that in a minute. A couple more important things about eSIMs is that these are another thing you should set up before you arrive in China, but not too much before, because usually once you set them up, the plan starts at that moment. So kind of the day before you leave or a couple days before is when you want to set them up. The ones that I have on my short list currently are Holafly and Airalo. I think I got the name right. Yeah, Airalo. And those seem to be like pretty popular among China travelers, again, from the research I did. So I'm going to be looking into those. And yeah, I'll put links down below to give you even more options that you can dive into. And that brings me to the VPN question. So sometimes these eSIMs will get you through the Great Wall of China. Sometimes they won't. If you bring your own phone, it has that same sort of shakiness. It might get you through, but
I guess you got to check with the provider.
You got to check with your provider. You got to check with the eSIM provider. And the more I read about it, the more I was like, wow, if it's really important. So first, let's back up a bit and say, well, what is this VPN? A VPN is a lot of things. I'm only talking about a VPN made for getting through the Great Wall of China to get to sites like Google services, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So first you got to ask yourself, is that super important to you? It sometimes is important to us, but one thing I remember when we were in the tea fields and on the tea farms was we were pretty much too busy to do these things. But it was nice to get in the city and have a VPN that worked to be able to do some posts and stuff like that. So first, if you're not in critical need of those sites, you might not even need a VPN. Your Alipay is going to work, your other services are going to work fine. The other thing is if you do have a mobile data plan that automatically gets you through the Great Firewall, you might be in the countryside on the tea fields and there might not be a mobile data plan. You might need to use local Wi-Fi, and anytime you connect to local Wi-Fi, maybe you just want to save some data, then you're going to be back in that situation where if you really want to get on Facebook or those kind of sites, you're going to need a VPN.
Well, I guess it's good to clear that what is China's Great Firewall? It is very blurry. For some people feel like we cannot see any foreign language.
Good
That
point.
is not true.
No, that's not
It's
the case.
just a few like those social site. How do you call that? Social.
Yeah, the social media sites are generally
certain sites.
Yeah.
You can still have a lot of foreign language sites that are accessible if you just want to do a quick search of something. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really down to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, the importance. And when you
think so.
talk about trip, I was just thinking, like, look, if you are just with us for that period of the time, I'm telling you, T-Trip is very intense.
We're going to be really busy.
Busy and tired. When we go, I don't even have time to transfer my photo from camera to my computer because at the end of the day, I was just so tired. I want to go to sleep. I don't even browse much. So, at some point, if you are traveling to China, like, a few days before the T-Trip starts or stay a little bit longer, that can be more important. You could probably have time. And during the T-Trip, when would you have a good section of the time when you wanna, where you could browse those websites is when we're during the travel, right? The transportation on the train or the same. And that's what I thought I would use that. It ends up in trains because there's lots of mountain in the south. It's in, out. I barely have any signal, not to mention browsing anything. So, it's something to consider. I found that if you're literally just with us for the T-Trip time in China, really consider how important is VPN for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it is, I'll put some links down below. The ones that I'm looking at are Astral and Mulvad, and maybe one called Let's VPN. Those seem to be on my short list. We used Nord one year and had a very mediocre to bad experience with that.
Yeah, it takes so much time to find different ones that
really hard
quote unquote work for in China and didn't work.
Very difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll put a link to some posts with even more, kind of live updates from people.
But I guess it's not too expensive to get one, just in
No,
case.
this one looks like it's around it can be. It can be like sort of $5 a month to sort of $30, $40 a month. But I'm going to do my best to steer clear of those expensive plans, hoping for something around the $10 a month Canadian mark.
I guess my view is just basically evaluate the importance before you invest time to research and invest money.
Yes, that's a key.
That's
key
the
factor.
importance. Yeah. I don't know. I would feel bad if I never even log into that and my trip is down and I spend $20-$30.
Yeah. And finally, I'll just talk about internet access around town. When we're in the cities and hotels and cafes and stuff, there's generally good, mobile signal in those regions, and as well they may have Wi-Fi that you can tap into. And but just remember, the login prompts are likely going to be in Chinese.
And possibly require Chinese phone number.
Right. That's a good point. That's an advantage of getting a SIM card at the airport. And so to kind of close on this topic of cell phones, mobile data, and VPNs and all that jazz, the first thing I want to say is if you're feeling like this is a little bit of a technical salad and it's overwhelming, I totally feel you. I 100% feel the same way. As I mentioned, I'll do my best to put some helpful links down below. And like Jen said, on the trains, the mobile data can be spotty because of just the terrain makes it really difficult. When we're in the tea farms, we may be more remote, may also be hard to get mobile data.
Now let's talk about a slightly interesting topic.
Way more fun.
Anyway, so I want to talk about lodging. First of all, T-Trip lodging, we take care of that. You don't have to think about that too much. I just wanted to warn you again that because I really want to bring an authentic T-Trip. So when possible, I always prioritize a stay at the farm. So you can wake up, walk out, and that's the tea garden.
It is spectacular.
Yeah, it's just that experience worth so much. But as you can imagine, it's a tea garden, factory, farm. It's not built for tourists. It's not a hotel, so the condition might not be as prime as we'd like to. It's a little disadvantage for this way of traveling. And because the condition could be a little bit rustic in the tea farm, whenever we travel in big cities or city areas, we try to book more comfortable states so we have a decompression, a relaxed time.
Yeah, a little reboot or whatever. And they're not bad. They're just slightly rustic. Right?
Yeah, it's just not a hotel kind of a way of approach.
And it's totally worth it to be just immersed in the whole tea making, tea garden vibe, you know.
However, I want to point out a special thing here. It's for ladies. I think for
a little bit for the dudes too.
Oh really?
Yeah, but go ahead.
So it's about toilet, and this is not about tea region.
Not specifically.
Yeah, it's for sure not specifically about tea region, because the tea region is more almost like a homestay, like a stay-at-home place. They might actually have two things actually. Let me not jump before too much. First, toilet. In China, especially if you're from North America, Canada, America, you probably only know toilet as a toilet.
Yep, like a little porcelain seat.
But in China, especially all times, we have a lot of plate, squat.
No porcelain seat.
How do you call that?
I call them skid plates in a hole.
Yes, that. But it's also porcelain. It's also porcelain.
It can be porcelain. It can be stainless. It can be, but there's no seat.
I'll put a picture. That's more clear.
Yeah.
Now we're introducing more toilet in the washroom, in the public washroom. So what I'm trying to say is, if you really hate this kind of squat toilet, let's just call that squat toilet for now. And when you go to the washroom and you notice a squat toilet, you can keep checking every little room till
each stall.
You might find a few toilet. But there's a chance that they're all squat toilet.
Yeah.
You can handle it. Yeah. It's not too weird. Another thing
I survived.
Another thing is, we need to bring toilet paper with us. I'm not saying you need to bring, for international travel, you don't need to bring that. We will bring and give out when we meet in China. But what I mean is, like, if we're in a restaurant sitting and drinking and you need to use the washroom, here in Canada or America, you just go to the washroom, toilet paper, the tissue is right there. In China, usually we bring our own tissue. Just when you leave, don't forget to when you leave the table, don't forget to grab the tissue. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, but it is.
It's a little bit weird.
I bet you it would surprise you guys, but it definitely surprised me. They're like, no, you got to take your own. I'm like, what?
Yes.
It's okay. It's just different.
I used to bring my own here because I feel like the public one is never so clean. Eventually, I couldn't buy those. I actually brought those from China before. When we travel around between different regions, there are a few ways of transportation. Airplane, high-speed train, or car. That's probably what we would use the most. During the trip, of course, we take care of that. You don't have to worry about it. Just to share with you a bit about when we plan how I prioritize things. For me, is efficiency. Not really about which way of transportation travel the fastest or use the least hour. It's about efficiency in the tea field. So in certain routes, you might notice that I didn't book airplane travel, which take only 2 hours. But instead, I book an overnight train because we can sleep on the train and the next morning I'm ready in the tea field. That's usually how we try to choose between all different ways of transportation. And just don't be alarmed, because you might think, hey, there's a faster way. Why are you booking this kind of overnight train.
And for me, it was super fun to use all these different modes and kind of just be rolling from place to place and kind of trying to slide in and out of the tea farm and make sure that your sleep is optimized and you're just kind of hitting it. It's really something.
Though we published the itinerary, honestly, we cannot promise you that we follow it strictly because things could change. Especially during the tea season. Our biggest enemy is rain. If it rains, we cannot plug and the factory don't have any leaves to process, and we will do adjustment according to it. But that's not the only one. You know, there could be other unexpected thing that could change our itinerary a little bit. In the past, we had a power outage in the factory because the factory is deep in the mountain. They were in charge of bring the whole electricity in, and when there's outage, you can wait for the city or like the government, the
hydro crews
to
need
take
time to react.
Yeah, or you can try to fix that yourself with your private crew or stuff. Either way, it takes time. It could result in a few delays or stuff. Another interesting thing, it could be like pluckers not showing up or suddenly short of people, affecting process. So we're really bringing you to the real world of tea making. Those things could happen. It would possibly affect our itinerary slightly. We will do our best to adjust it and make a good use of our time. And yeah, those are the moments that the tea producers are the most how should I say, most worried.
Antsy a little bit.
Antsy, yeah, because 1 day, 2 day, there's a major effect on their leaves.
And I'll tell you, from my perspective, watching you and ZhenTea react to that is still very interesting because it's the real tea world. It's really that's what they deal with on their day-to-day life during the tea making season. So it's still super interesting. And
and we just have to plan something
go with the flow.
promptly and see some alternative locations or stuff.
So as we've explained previously, we are not tour guides and we are planning on delivering a super authentic tea experience. But as we're not tour guides, you know, we want to give you guys some.
Do you think we should?
Is it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think when we're in the city we should make a little flag?
No, I was gonna carry a purple umbrella or something. Anyway, so what we're gonna send you guys is a little image with some emergency numbers and some Chinese written on it. In the unlikely event that you get separated, that you could show somebody and say, hey, you know, just point to the words and they can read, and it'll basically say, hey, please call this number. I lost my mommy, which is us. I lost my guides, you know, can you help me find them? And that will help you get sorted out. That'll have emergency numbers on it. The reality of it is this. Why do I say that's unlikely in a big city? You might think it could easily happen. The good news is that ZhenTea, and myself are all on average quite tall.
Especially in the south.
Versus the South Asian community. So we'll probably be poking up and you'll probably be able to see us from quite a distance.
Yes.
I don't plan on carrying a little purple umbrella or anything
Unless
like that.
You strongly suggest
Unless
it.
you insist, and then I will, because I kind of am dying to do that. But so that's sort of the getting separated vibe. We'll provide you with a little card you can put on your phone and you can have some information that should help you in the event that happens. It'll also have the emergency numbers. It is not 911 in China. There's a separate number for police, 110, a separate number for fire, 119, and ambulance is 120. So they'll be on your card. I don't think you need to memorize them. If you want to, go ahead. But we'll also send out some more information closer to trip time with stuff like a packing list, more travel tips, and of course, probably your favorite part, the tea course outline. I'm sure you're very excited to talk about tea buying when you're in China.
So here is the thing, right? You're on a trip and you might want a gift for the families or, you know, souvenirs or stuff. First of all, the tea that you make will be yours. You're free to take it home and enjoy it. And if you want to buy some tea from the farms you visited or stuff, first of all, I mean, the most important thing is that this is a tea trip. I'm not running those kind of trouble that you need to buy something. There's no obligation.
Yeah.
There's no obligation to buy. This part is just in case that you want to buy. Okay, you don't have to buy anything.
It's good to say that. I think
I hate those tourist trips that I gotta buy something.
And you might need to even ask, okay, because no one's gonna shove it in your face and kind of put that out there. So if you're really interested and you really enjoy the tea, don't be shy too, because I suspect you will want some, and that's okay. But no one's gonna force it on you or make
or show you the products or stuff. That's not gonna happen. So if you want to buy something, you gotta.
Let us know.
Let us know. And me, like us as a ZhenTea, we're not selling tea there. So if you want to buy from the farm, the factory, that will be strictly between you and them, right? I can help you with the translation and stuff, no issue. It's not just you gotta use Google Translate. I'm gonna help you with your translation, but in terms of the price, everything is between you guys to talk about that. We're not, as ZhenTea, we're not selling tea.
Yeah, it'll be straight from them to you.
Yes.
But pace yourself. Okay, you got to carry it, so pace yourself. you know, look at where you are in the trip and imagine if you did that at every spot, would you have, if you're going to have 25 or 30 kilo of tea, that's probably not going to fit in your luggage, right? So pace yourself, because I expect some of you might be quite excited about this.
Yes.
So that wraps up our tips and trips, tea trip, right? That wraps up our tips and tricks and our sort of hints and our guide for this upcoming tea trip. Again, we're super excited. I'm super excited to get out there in the tea fields with you guys.
I guess if you have any questions, you can comment below. But if it's private questions, you can, as usual, email me. Yeah. I think we cover most of what I think important. If we miss any part, you can let me know, and we might make more videos on that. So don't be shy.
And until next time, keep steeping.